Good day, everyone. I'm your host, James Hicks from Hicks New Media, and welcome to Perspectives in Focus, where we highlight people, industries, ideas, and the technology that are making positive strides within society today. My guest today is Miss Zani Sunshine. Zani is a registered nurse who grew up in Atlanta, and for years, right, she had the desire of leaving the hustle and bustle of city life and wanted to get something much more in tune with her love of nature. She has always considered herself a prepper, but wanted to take it to literally the highest level of becoming completely self sufficient. I'm going to let her go into the details, but we're going to talk to her about how she, her husband, Yino, and their son packed up from Atlanta, put everything in the travel trailer, headed to New Mexico, and started living their off grid life. We're going to talk about planning. We're going to talk about expectations. We're going to talk about the good, not so good, and we're going to talk about the next steps. It's going to be a good one, folks. Let's go. Packed up and moved everything. Listen, come on. When I first heard about that, I said, "Child, listen, we need to have a conversation." Miss Sunshine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Listen, we got one more day to do what we do, so we might as well make the best of it. At the end of the day, right?
Yes. Yep.
Selfishly, I just want to know all the things. To be honest with you, I want to know, like we were saying before we went live, just the struggles, the pitfalls, the ups, the downs, the in betweens, and all that stuff. But let me be uh, cognizant also to my community and the folks that are listening and the folks that are going to be listening during the replay. If you don't mind talking about your origin story from the standpoint
My,
of yeah, I was gonna say we can go all the way back, or we can go just a little bit, but really the fact that to the point of when you decided that it was time to leave Atlanta,
okay.
what was that turning point that made you say, okay, now it's time to move now, and just kind of what things have been in the last few years since you've embarked on your off grid living journey.
Okay. So I have always been an outdoorsy person. My dad is an outdoorsy person. So I grew up riding horses. When we moved to Atlanta when I was 12, he bought me my horse and he had a horse of his own. And we really got just entrenched in the Black cowboy community in Atlanta, which is just like an awesome community to be in. So I always envisioned having my own land, having my own horses. So that was always the goal for me, to have land, to have my horses, and to, live an outdoorsy life. And I ended up going to nursing school. I love nursing. I was doing home health for a long time. I really, really enjoyed it. But it's just not enough. Even though we were successful, we had good money, we had nice cars, just the hustle and bustle and the keeping up with everything, it was just too much. And at the age of 30, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do this for another 35 years. So I was thinking to myself, okay, so what are my options besides getting rich, which of course everyone wants to do, but how do I figure out an alternative life where I
Mm,
don't have to work till I'm 65 or 70, where I have more time freedom, where I'm not so dependent on the powers that be, on society, on everything else, to actually be fulfilled and be happy and be okay. And that was the biggest thing. How
wow.
am I going to be able to accomplish all of these things at the same time? And then things started happening in the world, and I started thinking about, okay, so if the power grid goes down, you can't go to the bank and get money. You can't buy groceries from the grocery store.
Come
You
on.
can't buy gas to put in your car. You don't have a heater to stay warm in the winter. Like, we are totally dependent and don't even necessarily know how dependent we are for our every basic human need. And I don't want to be that. So then I
So
just started looking into how can I be self-sustainable?
yeah, I mean, because that just what you just said right there sparked some things in my head as well. We're so dependent, but so many folks haven't done any of the preparation. What in case, right? We don't have the insurance. We got the insurance for our car, we got insurance for our house, we got all this other stuff. But yeah, what if there's a lightning strike or whatever? There's a flood or whatever, or fire like there is in Hawaii right now. Prayers to all those folks, and you are
Yeah.
out of luck for an
Yeah.
extended period of time. Where you gonna get some food? Where you gonna get what the basic necessities of life? That's incredibly forward thinking of you to even think about that ahead of time. And listen, we got some hecklers in the room. Shouts out to my man though, Steve Worth. He said I was just what's going on? You're leaving Atlanta and talking about he just got back there. So we watch out for these hecklers in the room,
Well,
Mr.
you know,
Worth.
I grew up in Atlanta. I love Atlanta, but I just wanted to be far out, you know?
And far out, we'll start there. We'll go in that perspective right there. And my friend Gretchen is saying here, I love to hear this. I've only managed off grid for 3 weeks at a time. So props to the beautiful, brave soul. So from
Thank
Atlanta,
you.
again, packed up the travel trailer, packed up the family, packed up everything, the horses, the cats, the dog. We got the cats after you move there. But
Right,
and,
right.
and headed to New Mexico. Talk to us a little bit about why New Mexico. Well, I know the story, but again, I want the audience to know a little bit about the story. So why New Mexico and what you found when you went to New Mexico?
So my husband grew up in New Mexico, and he would always tell me it's such a beautiful place. I want to take you there. I want you to see the stars at night. It's the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. I know you're going to love it. So I want to get you out there. And we just haven't been able to make a trip with everything that we had going on, our businesses and everything. So when the pandemic hit and they said they were locking everything down, we were like, oh no, not us. We're not being locked down.
Mm,
So we said, this is the perfect time to go across the country to New Mexico, check it out. He has lots of friends who are like family who are still here. So great support system. And we just came out and hung out for a couple of months. It was just, let's just go see. And then we happened to look at how cheap the land is. And that was the thing.
that was it.
So when we bought our land, we went to go look at the land, and it was 10-acre plots. And the guy said, buy one for 10,000, get the second one half off.
Come on now.
So 20 acres for $15,000.
Listen,
Was
where you want me
going
to
to be able
wire
to
that
find
money?
anything even close. Exactly.
Wow.
So that was just, that was it for us, because when I was planning the off grid life and I was planning it, I didn't roll south,
Okay.
at all, especially with all the things that were going on at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take those chances and have those discomforts. But trying to acquire a nice piece of land would cost a lot of money on the East Coast in general. And the fact that it was so affordable out here made the whole vision and dream doable.
Wow. So I want to get
Hmm.
into the process. I want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts and nitty gritty. And folks, listen. I know you listen, and I know I got a couple of comments. Go ahead and ask these questions. Zani is here to answer your questions, and we're not gonna hold anything
Yes,
back.
ma'am.
Three specific
Nope.
categories I want to get into. I want to get into the why. I think we already talked a little bit about the why. I want to talk about
Hmm.
and we talked a little bit about when too, so around the pandemic and lockdown, shutdown, and then wanting to go out and find something. But now let's get into the how. Right. So now you've acquired this land, great price. It's barren. Right. There's nothing out there except rattlesnakes and jackrabbits. How do you go about the process of saying I'm gonna build a structure? I'm gonna build a home on this rock. And
Hmm.
we're about to start preaching here in a minute. But
Hmm.
how you gonna build a home on this rock for your family to thrive and survive? And how did that process start to go?
Okay, so I had been planning for 10 years. So I was reading, watching, thinking about every possible thing and how I had to go about doing it. So basically, your infrastructure is your basis for everything. That is your housing, your water, your electricity, and your sewage. Okay. So you have to think about how you're going to get those done, what methods you're going to use. And we decided that temporarily we were going to live in an RV. So basically, we came and we bought the land. We rushed back to Atlanta. We sold our house in the West End. We got the money from that to be able to develop all of this. So the first thing we did was we got our well. Our well is 350 feet deep, and it was about $40 per foot So that came out to about $15,000 with the installation of the well pump, which is a deep well pump, and building the structure around the well. Then we had to get sewage systems. So we had a septic system installed, and that was about $7,500. We found a company that was doing solar. So there's a difference. So there's on grid solar and there's off grid solar. Most of the companies around now only do on grid or grid tied solar. So
Mm.
out of the 12 companies that called in New Mexico, only one of them does off grid solar. So we got them to come out and they put together our entire solar system and installed it for about $15,000. So
I'm,
that was the basis of. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I should pull up a calculator because again you come in with
Right?
you come in with some decent numbers that needed to be had up front. Again, you got the land, like I said, you got the rattlesnakes, you got the tumbleweeds, you got the dirt, but you need some water, and you need $15,000
Mm-hmm.
day one. You need $7,000 day
Yep.
two
And
to
you got
get
to have
some.
cash.
So
Right.
those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things, and I hope folks are listening to those perspectives right there. Yeah, yeah, it's all good and fine to want to go out and get in tune with nature and get off the grid and to live that lifestyle. But
Yeah.
these are the things Zani's talking about right now, the realities of it as well. Good, the bad, and the indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
But again, preparation. So
Yep.
I'm sorry, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there and didn't want to overshadow that.
Oh, no, no, that's okay. So yeah, preparation is the key. And people either think that off grid is only for the rich or they think that they can do it very cheaply.
Mm,
And it's neither. You need to have a good amount of cash to do it so you can set everything up because the well guy is going to take payments. The septic guy isn't going to take payments. The solar guy isn't going to
yeah,
take payments for off grid solar. They will for grid tied solar. For off grid solar, they're not necessarily. So you have to have cash in hand to pay for it. And the thing about the wells is you don't know how deep your well is going to be when he starts digging.
you don't know
It could
how deep the
be
water table is.
100
Yeah,
feet,
wherever you're
200
living.
feet,
Mm,
500 feet. Right. So you have to make sure that the deepest possible depth you have the cash for. So as soon as he's done, you can hand him that check.
my goodness, my.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so folks,
Yes.
folks, again, let's not get intimidated. Let's just be
Don't get
prepared.
intimidated.
Let's
Right.
be ready because I'm gonna show you some links here in a minute because Donnie's done all the research. If there's
Yes.
something that you're interested in and something that you're curious about and want to continue to pursue, I know somebody. She right there. I know somebody. Let
So
me
the thing is, people usually think that they can jump into it, and they get so discouraged when I tell them those numbers. But
yeah,
I'm like, so you have to make a plan. Just
there we
because you
go.
see it, just because you see it, and you think that it's something that you want to do, does not mean you're necessarily going to be able to do it tomorrow. Just because you don't have the money today to do it, doesn't mean that you can't figure out how to get the money in 5 to 10 years. You
Love it.
just have to make. I'm all about long term planning. Because if you don't make a long-term plan, more than likely you're not going to be able to get it together unless you're independently wealthy and you already have a lot of stuff going on. But I bought my house in the middle of West End when it was a horrible neighborhood. Had my door kicked in while I was sleeping the first month that I
Mm,
bought it. It was a very bad neighborhood, but I knew that gentrification was going to take effect, that the property values were going to increase astronomically. So I sat on that house for 10 years
okay.
knowing that I would be able to sell it in order to make my dreams happen.
Wow. Because early on in your life, you had already visioned this, right? This was on your vision board, like you say, plan. You knew you were not going to be in Atlanta for an extended period of time. It was just a pit stop on the road to wherever
Yes.
that was again closer
Where,
to nature for you, and it just happened to
right.
be closer to your husband's family and friends in New Mexico. So
Yep.
this translates to so much more than even just. I love this aspect, right? Because it translates more than just off grid living. It translates to business. It translates to professional. Translates to relationships. Having that
Mm-hmm.
plan, writing it down. It's only a plan if you don't write it down. When you write it down, it becomes the goal.
Right.
And you already had those ideals in place. You said, "Listen, I'm gonna get this
Mm-hmm.
house." Man, you
Yep.
never wanted to be kicked in. You didn't want that to happen, obviously, but you lived through that and then was able to successfully move over. I want to talk a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about the good and the bad. Right. So we talked a little bit about the good, but come on, give us some juices, give us some stories about
Okay.
it could not have gone 100% right when the well man came out. It could not. Let's talk about them cats you had to buy. Right. I mean, come on now. Let's talk.
Wait,
I do my research. Let's talk about some of the things that went in. I see some
well,
folks
let me
joining
go
from
back
all
a
over.
little bit farther. This was not my first attempt.
Okay,
I
interesting.
actually, my friend and I, her husband had her husband was from Jamaica.
Okay.
His family had land in Ocho Rios next to the
Mm.
Blue Hole, right?
Hmm.
Which is a beautiful stretch of the river with this beautiful blue swimming hole in it. And we went over there and we said we're going to start a horseback riding business where people ride the horses up the river and they tube down and then they, come around the waterfall, and we set everything up. We went to the racetrack. We bought 3 horses. We rented an Airbnb. We brought
Wow.
saddles, all the equipment back from Atlanta to Jamaica, set everything up, started setting everything up, and then the government claimed eminent domain over the thing, and that was just all gone. So that was tens of thousands of dollars, but the plan was to
Mm.
be off grid in Jamaica with this business, and it failed, and money was just lost.
Okay.
So this is
So no, hold on. So let's go. Come on, because right there, again, here go another pivot. I told you I got to run the show, but there's a whole
mhm,
nother aspect right there. Let's talk about that mindset right then, right?
mhm,
Because again, you, from what I research and what I assume, what I know, you methodical, planned out. You got A, B, and C contingencies in place. When that
yes,
happened, talk to me about
mhm,
the conversation you and your friends had. Said, oh, Lord have mercy, we didn't put all this money in, this investment, traveling back and forth, kind of the
right.
emotions of having the world, did the world shatter, or just did just this particular event cause a hiccup? Talk to me about that time when that all went.
Okay. So she was more so in Jamaica at the time, and I was in Atlanta sending money. I was the point person in Atlanta, and she was setting everything up. One day she called me and said, "You won't believe this, but one of the horses got struck by lightning
Lord have mercy.
and died."
Come on now.
Okay. All right.
One in
So
a
then,
billion
like,
opportunities or chances for that to happen. I ain't never heard no horse get. Okay.
exactly. A month later, one of the horses colicked and died. So then I went down there to like solidify everything, and we were going to get more horses. And that's when she didn't want to tell me over the phone that the government had fenced off the river and claimed eminent domain over the area. And I was like, that's it. I said, that's God in the universe telling me that I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, it's just a test. I said, my God doesn't test me like that. I get signs. I get signs, and I heed the signs. I mean, horses never get struck by lightning, and this horse got struck down by lightning and
Lord have
all of this
mercy.
other stuff. I'm not supposed to be here. So I said, okay, God, I hear you. Moving right along. One thing that I'm always good at is pivoting. This doesn't
Mm.
work out right. Pivot to the next thing. Pivot to the next thing. Because what I have learned in my spiritual journey is we have to go through things to learn what we don't want sometimes.
Oof.
Well, to see what's not going to work, and we cannot let it shatter us because there's still more work to do. There's still something else to do. There's still another way to do it in another place. So, and I was single at the time. Me and my husband weren't even together when
Okay.
all that
Wow.
happened.
Mm.
So, it happened for a reason. I have a wonderful, lovely, happy marriage that I probably would not have had if I had stayed in Jamaica
You
and we were
glass half
able to
full. You.
create. You gotta be. I mean, in this life, you have to be.
That is true, and I appreciate you for going into that because and Mr. Riley here kind of understands where I wanted to go with that. Is that story could do a
Mhm.
number on your mental health if you're not prepared, and I'm a huge advocate for talking about mental health, especially honestly for men because men don't talk about those kind of things, but to hear you go through those trials, go through
Mhm.
those tribulations, and say, all right, you know what, this is just someone tripped me and I fell down, but I'm not going to stay down, and was able to get
Right.
back up.
Right.
Okay.
But mind you, I've suffered from depression all of my life. So it's not like it wasn't. It wasn't earth shattering for me.
Mm,
Um, but yes, mental health is important and with all those aspects. But yeah, I just want you to know that I do have my own mental health issues that I've always had. But still, you got to keep moving. You can't let that stop you. You got to take your medicine and keep it moving.
love that. Love that. Appreciate that. Let me
Uh
let me
huh.
let me appreciate that a little bit more than you know right now because again it's been a tough week over here in Northern California for your boy too. But that's good news right there.
Yep.
Um, let me ask about after you got some of that infrastructure in, after
Hmm.
you got land acquired, and after you got water, and after you got the basic necessities, kind of
Hmm.
moving forward, how do you maintain, right? What does off-grid living mean to you versus what does it mean to someone who just the perspective of roughing it, right? And
Okay.
right, what does it really mean to you when you go out and educate kind of the common folk and tell them exactly what you're doing? You got lights, you got water, you got heat, you got the things. So you're not camping.
No,
Right. But the
not by any
definition,
means.
yeah, talk about the definition of off-grid living for you.
So the dictionary definition is not being connected to municipal utilities, so supplying your own water, your own electricity, and managing your own sewage. There's a large variation in spectrum of how people live within this. There are some people who don't have running water, some people who don't have electricity, who have outhouses. For me personally, I need a lot of comfort. I need all of my creature comforts. I need all of my amenities. I need my hot water. I have a pool in the summertime. I need all of the amenities and all of the things because my goal is to be living off grid luxury, not definitely not camping, not on the other end of the spectrum, but luxury. And basically, you can live off grid and have it like living on the grid in terms of you don't have to do a lot of work every day, just depending on how you set everything up. So it's a large spectrum of how you could do it, but it all comes down to your comfort needs.
Mm.
That's what
And
it all boils down to.
so there's the next avenue that I wanted to go into because you recently did a series on your TikTok
Hmm.
channel. And listen, shouts out to all them followers and subscribers you got on. You out there, y'all doing the thing, right? And I will put links to all of your social media handles. But you recently did a short series on kind of the four things for preparing for off grid living.
Hmm. Hmm.
One was the budget. We talked a little bit about that already. The next one was codes, regulations, and laws, knowing about that. And I'm going to go into each of these a little bit more. But then the
Hmm.
third was that level of comfort, that personal level of
Personal.
comfort, right? So
Yep.
camping versus luxury living. And you can
Yep.
have that in an off grid
Yep.
living type of manner. That fourth one, though, hardcore physical labor
Yes.
and having that foreshadowed, having that front of mind that listen, you're not going to just come out here and you're not going to just going to hire someone to do everything. They can do some of the really big stuff, but you're going to have to
Right.
roll up the
Mhm.
sleeves and put some gloves on. So let's talk a little bit about those four steps that you had in terms of preparing just for once you get there, once you get some of that stuff in place, the mindset. That's what I want to talk about, the mindset of the individual as they become to a off-grid living environment.
So the basis of all of it is how much money you have when you start. If you have a small amount of money when you start, you're going to have way more physical labor, way more discomfort. If you have more money when you start, it's going to decrease those things, right?
Mm,
So the comfort, like I said, it's dependent on each individual person. But at the beginning, we still had to do without a lot of things in the beginning because we didn't have internet at first. Of course, we were in an RV, so we still had the comfort of the RV. But there were times where the water heater went out or the water pump went out. Things happen, things break. We're in a place where if you don't know how to fix it, nobody's coming to fix it for you.
wow.
So that's very important. And in the beginning, if you're building a homestead from scratch, it's going to take a lot of hardcore physical labor. But the amount of time that you're going to have to do that just depends on how quickly you can set up your infrastructure. There's some people who live off grid and they have hardcore physical labor every day because they don't have running water. We when we were on the PBS special, they had three different families, and one of the families had no running water. So in the winter, what they had to do was go scoop the snow, melt the snow on the wood stove in order to have water.
Wow. Now
you know?
that sounds like some of the stuff I watch on what's my channel? But the Alaska, living in Alaska,
Yeah.
the homesteaders in
Hmm.
Alaska. I,
Right.
I watch them shows all. That's I'm into that. Let me tell you something. So that's why I selfishly wanted to have this conversation so much, because I'm comparing what I see with them versus what I'm hearing that you do. And
Hmm. It's
yeah,
different.
you may go out and hunt just a little bit, but listen, you're not out there foraging,
Nope.
foraging for food.
Nope.
Because
No, not at all.
you got the greenhouse. So I mean, so you've got all that stuff in place, which is probably not probably, which is definitely more healthy than against the regular stuff that we get at. I'm not gonna
Oh,
name it.
yes.
I ain't gonna name
Yes.
no Safeway or no Kroger. I'm not gonna name any names. Like, I'm never gonna get a brand deal with them now. But
That's okay.
that let me
Yeah, so
see.
it's overall a more healthy way of life mentally. It's way less stress than when you are 9 to 5, hustling, with the fresh air, with being closer to animals, being in nature, raising your own food, growing your own food, even though we're not 100% food self-sufficient as of yet, but still, it's a lot healthier for you mentally and physically.
And it didn't hurt that I understand your husband knows a handful of things, right? Would you call him a jack of all trades when it
Jack of
come to
all
picking up
trades. That
a
is for sure.
screwdriver and a hammer, and the man know his way around some architectural plans, and he can draw his own
Yes.
plans. So that was pretty good. But again, I say that facetiously, and I say that just kind of off the cuff, but having those types of skills as well, right? Again,
Yep.
you out here in these streets,
Yep.
and it sounds good and it sounds great, but if you don't know how to fend for yourself, like you say, you're quite a bit of a distance from Lowe's and Home Depot,
Civilization. Right.
right?
An hour
That's
and a
not down
half.
the street. Come
Hour
on.
and a half. Yeah. So you got to take that into consideration too.
My goodness. Um,
Hmm.
let me you alluded to it, and other folks are starting to pay attention to you,
Hmm.
right? So you alluded to a little bit. There was an article that you were a part of, I think it was Newsweek.
Hmm.
Told your story of the beginning, where you at and where you're going,
Hmm.
but now television is looking at you.
Hmm.
So props on that. Now, please,
Thank
that's
you.
pretty cool. Ain't nothing wrong with PBS giving you an email. It's showing up in
Right.
your
Right.
email.
I
Like,
know.
is this a
I
spam
was
message?
surprised.
No,
I was like,
this
"Oh,
PBS.
PBS, yes. Oh, PBS, come on."
Talk a little bit about that. About again some of these blessings that are happening. You set up this
Hmm.
environment. Your family is living now. You're off grid living, and now
Hmm.
you're not just telling folks around you. You're telling the world about it, because again, like I said as well, you've got a large following on social media. But now someone like a PBS has acknowledged it as well. What's going on with them?
Well, so first of all, none of this was my plan when moving off grid. I did not plan to move off grid and then get in the spotlight.
Okay.
Before we did this, I was not even really using social media. And my friends and family, when we were on the journey out here, were like, you need to start posting, you need to show people what you're doing so everybody can see. And it just kind of grew from there. And our 25 acres is covered in sagebrush. And I said, okay, well, I can sell sage, but how am I going to do this social media so that I can sell the sage? So I got a social media coach. She said, don't worry about the sage, show people what you're doing in your off-grid life. And I was like, okay. So I started doing that, and I thought 5,000 followers was a lot of followers when I started. I never in a million years thought it was going to snowball to almost 500,000 followers now, with Newsweek and PBS and everybody contacting me. It was never in my visions at all. So it's just very strange that we have gotten to this point. And I had always called myself an antisocial introvert, right? So now I'm trying to shed that persona that I had put on myself as an antisocial introvert, because I really feel as though I am called to show other people this lifestyle, called to teach people how to do it, how to change their life, for them to see an alternative from regular life.
Hmm.
So I've had to open up. I've had to let a lot of things go. And I've had to surrender. I've had to submit. And I've had to say, okay, God, I guess this is what you want me to do. So I'm going to try to do it. And I've resisted at every turn. In the beginning,
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to quit social media. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to do it. But here I am still. I'm still going, and I really think that I'm supposed to be doing this.
Let me ask, why did you feel that you wanted to maybe quit social media? Was it that you didn't see any value in that, or it was more of a time sink? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but those are some of the adjectives that I use sometimes with social
Right.
media. But
It takes a ton of time, energy, thought, planning to build your social media
mm,
to a certain level.
yeah,
It takes a lot of just strategic, everybody wants to say it's organic. It's organic, but it's not organic at the same time because you are trying to get to this point. And people think, oh, she has 100, 200,000 followers. She's getting paid. That's not how it works.
hmm
Most people don't know how it works with payment and social media and everything like that. And, I'm not making a lot of money doing it. So with the time, energy, and effort that I'm putting into it, it's like I'm not getting the financial return. But then on the other hand, when I'm like, oh, well, God wants me to do this, I got to keep going regardless.
because it depends on
You know,
whatever that why is. Right.
depends on what it
If you searching for like in the YouTube space, if you're trying to get to that plaque, all right, that's one thing. But
is. Uh
are
huh.
you really fulfilled with that? Or do you yeah, it's great to get these Google checks on the 21st of the month. That's when they
Hmm.
come in for folks. And listen, let me tell you, so that's when the them YouTube checks come. But again, that's only a piece of it. But
Hmm.
fulfilling yourself and rising above the noise,
Yep.
having relevant conversations, sharing, educating, doing all those things, that's more fulfilling, I think, to be honest,
Yes.
from my perspective. And it sounds like from
Yes.
you as well. Then
Yes.
again, getting that little cash app or getting that Venmo or getting that whatever. Nothing wrong with it now.
But
But
if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be able to sustain it. If you don't have
shows
that
it.
good
Shows
why,
over.
you're not going to be able to keep it going.
Lord have mercy. She over here preaching. You thought I was gonna preach to y'all. Miss Sunshine over. Okay. I thank you for that. That because
Yeah,
that's the
because I
truth
think
right there.
Yeah, I think people think that, this whole social media thing is easy or that, like I said, that you're going to get rich quickly and all of that. And it's not.
Yeah.
You got to really have a good why to keep it going because there's plenty of people who start and fall off because of that.
Because they don't realize that it's a marathon. They think it's a sprint. They look at whomever's out there that's hot right now and don't realize
Yep.
that
They've been
listen,
doing it.
look, Marquez and Justine and Beast, all of them been doing it for a decade
Yep.
or more. And if
Hmm.
that's what your goal is to try to get to their level, fine and dandy as well. And a lot of us, we not necessarily shooting at that star.
No,
Okay, see, I'm getting off topic here, Lord. Let me look at my notes. Okay, uh, we gonna have another conversation for sure in the
definitely.
future.
Definitely.
Let's talk about what's next though outside of this PBS because we already speaking that into existence, so we know that's gonna happen. I'm gonna put the links for that as well, so folks can check out the quick synopsis on that. But
Hmm.
you've got your book out as well
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
we've talked about some of the steps, we talked about some of the checklists that you have, but you've got a book out that actually walks people systematically through what, why, how, when, and things of that nature. Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
So the book is basically everybody doesn't want to move off grid. Everybody's not going to move off grid, but the one
Mm,
thing that everybody needs to do is be prepared. Be prepared at home where they are. Make sure that you have enough food, water, that you have an emergency kit, that you have first aid supplies. There are so many things that could go wrong and that could happen, as we saw with COVID, where you need to be prepared. And the book is just about teaching you what prepping is, how to prep, how much food and water you should keep in your house. And one of the biggest reasons why I actually even started this book was just fire safety for families. Because the one thing that I know most families are not doing is having fire drills at home with their kids. So if God forbid you were to have a fire in your house, one, do you have the necessary tools? Do you have multiple fire extinguishers in different parts of the house? If you have bedrooms on the second floor, do you have an escape ladder for somebody to get down and out of the house from the second floor? A big thing that my sister reminded me of, she was like, oh my God, I just realized that all of the windows in most of the rooms upstairs are sealed shut. So if
oof.
there were to a fire to occur, they wouldn't even be able to open the windows easily. And these are small things that we don't necessarily think
Wow.
about as parents, because we have so much other stuff going on in life that we don't think about just being able to keep our babies safe in their safe place, and what could go wrong and how to avert that, and teaching our children this is what fire looks like, this is what you do if there's smoke. I don't even know if they're doing stop, drop, and roll as much in schools as they used to when we
Yeah.
were younger.
Yeah.
Just all of those basic survival things. And then it goes into, if your child was to get lost in the wilderness, do they know what to do? Do you know what to do? you
That's
know
what's
do
crazy
you
about that is, so our this is crazy. Okay, because our son just turned 19. Today's his 19th birthday, and we just
Okay.
took a handful of his friends with us to. We got a place in the mountains, and we took,
Mhm.
I don't know, about 12 of them up this past weekend. A majority of them, 18, 19 year olds, have never been in nature, didn't know how to fish, had never fished,
Mhm. Yep.
didn't know how to start a fire.
Fire.
Again, right? Certain things that, again, I grew up with, and then my son being a Boy Scout, so learned some of those fundamental things. But
Mhm.
it was crazy to me and really eye opening that 18, 19, and 20-year-old college kids never
Mhm.
fished, never been in complete darkness at night.
Right. Oh, people are
Right.
scared of that.
People, right? So to see the reaction when it was actually completely dark, and not being around city lights and street lights, and their reaction, and also the eyes bugging out, really was an awakening thing for me, and kind of sad as well to think about
It
it.
is. We have gotten so far away from real life, and we have created this false reality
Mm,
of what life really is, that people don't know where their food came from. Most people don't know how to grow anything. Most people, like you said, have not been in nature, do not know how to start fires. And it's just sad that it took basically 2, 3 generations for it to go away, you know? Because most of our generations, our grandmothers were growing something, or you know what I'm saying?
hmm
And our children are so removed from that. And if we don't purposely go out of our way to show them and teach them these things, then they're not going to know. I sent my oldest son to Outward Bound. Have you ever heard of Outward Bound?
I have not. No.
So it's a program. My father actually did it when he was younger too. It's a program where they take kids out into the wilderness. They teach them all of these survival skills. And then the counselor goes away for a week, and they have to survive in a group for a week by themselves. And then they have 3 or 4 days where they have to survive totally alone by themselves in the woods.
Man,
And it's a great program. And my son did it for like 2 summers, and he traveled to different places. One was just camping. The second one was like whitewater rafting,
wow.
where they did it. And it's just a really great program that they have in most cities, especially for inner city kids, that parents should look into. But we have to change the narrative. We are being programmed
Mm,
to be good workers
come on now.
and do what they want us to do to feed the system. Things are not set up for us to be fulfilled and happy and independent. They want the kids to sit still in school for 8 hours a day, not talk to other people. It's all a program.
Because that's unnatural. That's just unnatural in and of itself.
Unnatural. And that's why ADHD is rampant, because of course, there is ADHD, but the kids are not supposed to be sitting still for that long in school. It's just not how we're wired as humans, as animals. However, this is what they want us to do, so we can sit at those office jobs all day or sit wherever and do that work for them. It's not about, you get 2 days off a week and 2 weeks a year. I mean, come on now.
I don't even know what's around coming out your mouth.
It don't sound right.
But yet
It
still
doesn't sound
we
right.
live that. It doesn't sound right coming out your mouth. Wow.
Hmm.
My friend Gretchen says yes. Outward Bound. So I guess she's heard of that. So appreciate you for
Hmm.
chiming in with that. Mr.
Yep.
Riley is actually in the education system down in Southern California. He says there are several different types of emergency drills in schools: fire, earthquake, and stay in place. So it's good that they
Okay.
still do that kind of thing.
Yes.
Um,
But we still need to be doing it in the house,
hmm Yeah.
because your house is not the school. Your house has way more flammable stuff all over the place, curtains and all kinds of stuff. So we still need to, I'm glad that they're doing it in schools still, yes. But we definitely need to be pushing it at home.
Love it. Love it. Shirley is talking about, yes, families need that preparedness. Uh,
Mhm.
a good friend of mine who doesn't watch, but he'll listen to the podcast, the audio
Mhm.
podcast. He works in the fire safety industry and installed.
Okay.
I'm in a relatively brand new house, but he brought over all these new fire extinguishers and well. So when he hears that part, I know he's
Right.
going to be sitting in his truck and just grinning and smiling in and of itself. So shouts out to you, Mr. John Hazen, because I know when you hear Zani's point about fire safety, fire drills, and things of that
Hmm.
nature, that again we have to have that. It's no longer just
We have to,
uh,
yes.
a side thought. It's just too much is happening, too much has happened, too much still will happen, and you have to be prepared for it. Um,
Yep.
let me ask you about the Earthship.
Yes.
Come on
My
now.
dream.
Come on,
My
let's
dream.
talk about where you're going. All this other stuff is cool and all. PBS and Discovery Channel and going out there and doing what you're doing. But you have a goal in mind. You
Yes.
probably already know what it's going to look like. You probably know the
Yes.
feature functionality and all that stuff.
Yes.
Talk to the folks a little bit about the Sunshine Earthship.
Okay, so an Earthship is a self-contained home that was developed by a guy in Taos, New Mexico, and basically it's south facing because when you build a house, you want it to be south facing, so it's absorbing all of the winter sun. It's made out of adobe and tires, which creates thermal mass. So the sun hits the adobe and the tires and the whole structure. It absorbs the heat, and then in the winter time at night it releases the heat, so it makes it easier for the home to stay warm in the winter and cooler in the summer. It also, the front of it is all glass, and there's a greenhouse in front, so you can grow your food year round in the front of the home. It's solar powered with solar panels and batteries and everything. And then it recycles the rainwater several times. So the rainwater goes through a filtration system. Then it goes into your sinks and showers. From there, it goes into your toilet. And after the toilet, it goes and waters a little vegetative, non edible vegetative area outside.
So essentially, you haven't thought about this at all. Essentially, you just
Right?
coming off the dome with this right now. That sounds amazing and
It
exciting.
is. It is. It is. And it's been on my vision board, whew, for 12, 13 years.
How far are you guys
And
on?
we're hoping 2 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But the
Okay.
thing is, so a lot of people build their own Earthships.
Hmm.
We don't know how to finish projects all the way and button everything up. That's one of our. So I told my husband, we can't build this thing. I mean, it'll take us 5 years. We'll never finish it all the way. We're trying to get everything together so we can have them come out and build it for us.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
That
So that is the plan, to have them come and build it for us.
and you've got as of today, what is it, 25 some acres? You got a little bit of
Yep,
elbow
we got
room
25
to
acres.
put it out there. You got your acres and a mule. I
The
am
mule I'm waiting for. That's actually one of the biggest things that I want is several mules. I love mules.
Lord have mercy. Hope they don't get hit by lightning. Good. Ooh.
Right? For real.
I'm just going. I shouldn't have said nothing about that because I don't want to put that energy out there. Lord, don't let them get hit by lightning though.
I know.
That ain't gonna call me up one day. She said, "Boy, okay, Earthship is coming, mules are coming,
Hmm.
book is out there, PBS is knocking at the door. What else? Have you got? Tell folks where they can find you, how they can stay in touch. I'm obviously gonna put links, like I said, to all of the TikToks and the Instagrams and
Hmm.
things of that other world. But if someone say they wanted to have a deeper conversation with you, they're 80% there. Right, they
Okay.
got cash in the bank. They got whatever they want to do, but they say they're close and they want to have a deeper conversation with you. How can they get in contact with you?
I have an ultimate off-grid planning program. You can access it on my website, offgridhomesteadfam.com, where we do one-on-one coaching. It's a 12-month program. You get the class, you get discussing 60-minute phone calls with me every month. You also get all kinds of other tools, worksheets, and everything to get you to your goal. I also have the full budget on my website. I have weekly free off grid classes on YouTube, and lots of other things. And I'm always thinking up new things and offering new things and changing things around. So definitely check out my website.
Y'all didn't know Zani Sunshine is ready for whatever.
I'm ready. I'm ready for sure.
Right. It. Some of it's up here, but most of it's written down, which is even better. And there's plans and there's contingencies in place. This was a pretty cool conversation.
Thank
I got more than this than I thought, and I appreciate the due diligence. I appreciate what you're doing, and the fact that again you're out there telling folks that you're educating folks on common sense. You're educating folks on safety, educating folks on preparedness,
you. Hmm.
uh, and and just having those discussions because we assume it, we think it. Some of the stuff folks may not want to talk about, may not want to think about, but again, you got to because that's not even proper English. I'm sorry, Mr. Riley in here. You education, you got to. Y'all know I'm from the country, so I'm sorry.
But I found that a lot of people are in denial and they
Mm,
don't want to think about the possible things that could happen. And they tell me that what I'm telling them is triggering them.
wow.
But I have always thought in the worst case scenario. That is who I am. Every single situation, I always think about what is the worst case scenario of what could happen right now. And that's how I make decisions and I plan. But a lot of people don't think that way. They're in denial. They don't want to think about the possibilities. So some people, unfortunately, will never be prepared because that means they actually have to look at the things that could go wrong.
Don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that group at all. At
Right,
all. My friend Gretchen is saying my dad built a fire escape off the house he grew up in, that she grew up in,
right.
and teasingly call it the eloping ladder. I love that. That's good.
That's good.
Very cool conversation. I like the ways I need to find the different types of off grid. So I'm glad folks have found some value in this. Again, like I say, selfishly, I know
Yes.
I did. I just wanted to have the conversation, and it's turned into something else, and I love that. You got it going on. You and your family. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm gonna make sure my PBS KVIE channel 6 here in Northern California is tuned to. Hold on, what's the name of it? Let me. What y'all gonna call it? Off the grid, New Mexico. Come on, y'all.
Hmm.
I ain't mad at that. That's gonna get something. An Emmy, Oscar, all of it.
Something,
Grammy. You gonna get something for that.
right?
You all right. Be well. Take care. You and your family.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
continue to watch the journey. I'm gonna make sure I subscribe to all the channels because I want to see when you
Thank
get the
you.
mules in place. And
Yes.
I wish you guys nothing but the best.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you now.